All right, today we're jumping into Brené Brown's Daring Greatly. And let me tell you, this book, it takes everything we think we know about courage and vulnerability and just flips it upside down. So let's dive right in. Okay, so let me start by asking you something. When was the last time you really put yourself out there? And I don't mean, a calculated risk. I mean a moment where you felt completely exposed. Maybe your heart was pounding, you were a little terrified, but you did it anyway. You showed up. That feeling, that's exactly what we're digging into today. So why is that so hard? Why is just showing up such a monumental task sometimes? Well, Brené Brown argues it's because we're living in what she calls a never-enough world. It's this culture of scarcity, and it's basically designed to keep us feeling afraid and like we're just not measuring up. This whole scarcity thing, it traps us. It puts us on this hamster wheel of comparison, and it is draining. We're constantly measuring our lives, our jobs, our families, you name it, against some impossible, airbrushed ideal. It's a cycle that just churns out anxiety and fear. And this culture is so sneaky, right? Because it plugs directly into our deepest, most personal insecurities. It creates this constant background noise in our heads, just whispering, you're not smart enough, not successful enough, not thin enough, not certain enough. And that fear, that deep down fear of being unworthy, it can literally paralyze us. It keeps us on the sidelines of our own lives. So how in the world do we fight back against all that? Well, the answer is pretty much the exact opposite of what you'd expect. We have to start by embracing the one thing our culture tells us to hide, to bury, to run away from, our vulnerability. It's time to bust the biggest myth out there about courage. Okay, so before we go any further, let's be super clear about what vulnerability even is. Brené Brown's research boils it down to three key things: uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. That's it. It's not a weakness, it's not a strength. It's just that feeling you get when you're in a situation and you have absolutely no control over what happens next. And this right here is where the whole script gets flipped. We've been taught our whole lives that vulnerability is weakness, right? It's a flaw, something to be ashamed of. But the research, it shows the complete opposite. It turns out vulnerability is courage. It's the only way to get to real, genuine connection. And believe it or not, it's the birthplace of joy.
I mean, this quote from Brené Brown just says it all perfectly. Vulnerability is the birthplace of love, belonging, joy, courage, empathy, and creativity. Just think about that for a second. Every single one of those things, all the good stuff we're chasing in life, you can't have any of it without being willing to be vulnerable. It's impossible. You can't have deep connection if you're not willing to risk getting hurt.
Okay, so if vulnerability is the key, what's the big scary monster guarding the door? What's holding us back so tightly? Well, the answer is shame. It is one of the most powerful, most isolating emotions we can feel, and it's the number one thing that keeps us from living a brave, authentic life. And it's so important to know that shame is not the same as guilt. Guilt is, oops, I did something bad. Shame is, I am bad. See the difference? Shame is that intensely painful feeling that we are fundamentally flawed, and because of that, we're not worthy of love or belonging. It's that deep fear of being disconnected from others that just makes us want to hide. And here's the crazy thing about shame. It's like a vampire. It can't survive in the light. It gets all its power from secrecy, from silence, from judgment. It wants to convince you that you're the only person on earth who has ever felt this way. And the more we hide our stories because we're afraid of what people will think, the stronger that shame gets. So, how do we fight this vampire? With empathy. That's the antidote. Shame literally cannot survive being spoken out loud and being met with empathy. When you can say, this is what I'm feeling, and the other person says, I get it, or I've been there, poof, the shame starts to lose all its power. That connection is what kills it. And thankfully, Brené Brown gives us a roadmap for this. She calls it shame resilience, and it has 4 basic elements. First, you've got to recognize shame and figure out what your triggers are. Second, you practice critical awareness. Start noticing all those never enough messages the world is throwing at you. Third, and this is huge, you reach out and share your story. And finally, you speak the shame. You give it a voice, and that takes away its power. Okay, so once we start building up that resilience to shame, we find the courage to do something pretty amazing. We can finally step into what Brown calls the arena. This is her big, powerful metaphor for what it means to show up, to take risks, and to allow ourselves to be truly fully seen. This whole idea comes from an iconic quote by Theodore Roosevelt. It's the one that goes, "It is not the critic who counts." The whole point is that the real credit, the real respect, it belongs to the person who is actually in the arena, the one whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, the person who's actually in the fight. And that right there is the absolute heart of daring greatly. It has nothing to do with winning or losing. It's not about being perfect. It's simply about having the courage to show up and get in the ring, even when you have no idea what the outcome will be. The victory isn't in the win. The victory is in the daring.
All of this, all of it, leads back to one single foundational belief. It's the one thing that makes it possible to step into that arena in the first place. It's a simple idea, but honestly, it's revolutionary. And it's this: you are enough. Now, living that truth means we have to accept some other truths first, like the fact that you are imperfect, and you are absolutely wired for struggle. We all are. That's not a bug, it's a feature. It's just part of being human. Perfection is the myth that keeps us from ever getting in the game.
But here's the kicker. None of that, not the imperfection, not the struggle, none of it changes the fact that you are worthy of love and belonging. Right now, just as you are. Your worth isn't something you have to earn. It isn't something you achieve by hustling or being perfect. It's your birthright. So, we'll leave you with this question to carry with you. In your own life, what's in your arena? What is so important, so meaningful to you that it's worth doing, even if you fail? Because figuring out the answer to that question, well, that's the very first step to daring greatly.